Welcome to this community newspaper's Facebook program, Excellence in Education. This is Marta Perez, and our mission is to expose and inspire excellence in education. Please follow us on Facebook and send questions via our chat room. This is a very special Excellence in Education program today because we have a very important guest who has dedicated his life to excellence in education. Please allow me to introduce our newly minted Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Jose Dotres. His experiences includes working at Miami-Dade, Broward, and Collier counties, as well as the private sector. In these executive positions, his responsibilities included comprehensive teacher and leadership development programs, talent management, organizational development, recruitment experience, performance management, school operations, curriculum development, and many, many other things. Job titles for this superintendent have been in the past, besides superintendent now, deputy superintendent, chief human resource officers, chief of staff, chief academic officer, assistant superintendent of professional development, regional superintendent, curriculum director, principal, assistant principal, principal, teacher, loving husband, and amazing father. And by the way, today is Fathers in Education Day, and already this morning he has been active in promoting fathers in education. He is known to have a strong vision and passion for creating opportunities that impact teaching and learning. He has a reputation as a conscientious administrator, a kind man who generally likes to keep a low profile. Please welcome our superintendent and the CEO of Miami-Dade County Public Schools, Dr. Jose Dotres. Welcome, Dr. Dotres, to our show. How, please tell us how you grew up and what was your education like?
Well, first of all, thank you, Dr. Perez, for inviting me to the program, and it's an honor to be here to speak to you.
Thank you.
I grew up in Miami. I came from Cuba at the age of 5, and so all of my education took place here in Miami-Dade County Public Schools. Went to elementary school, middle school, and eventually graduated from Miami Senior High School.
Elementary school.
So let me list the schools. Citrus Grove Elementary. Then, because of integration, where they were integrating some of the schools or some of the areas, I went to 3 separate middle school grades.
Schools.
I went to Ada Merritt for 7th grade, Citrus Grove for 8th grade, Booker T. Washington for 9th grade, and then went to Miami Senior High School. And
You
I
got
graduated.
around.
I did get around and had a really good opportunity to interact with all types of students and teachers
and
and
see different neighborhoods.
Right. In a very diverse environment of education.
Right. And when you were growing up, tell us about your family. Do you have siblings?
Okay, so I am an only child.
Okay.
And as I was growing up, my parents, of course, worked a lot of hours. My father, migrating over here, he became a baker.
Oh, okay.
And worked many, many hours, probably more than 12 hours a day. My mother started in a factory, sewing clothes like many other Cuban
ladies that
arrivals. And so it was, a working family, worked a lot of hours. However, my mother really has a special story. She didn't stop there. Later on, she became a manicurist, and then she actually went back to school, got her GED, and actually ended up working for Immigration Services as an officer. So very proud of her trajectory and her work ethic and where she got in terms of the experiences that she had here in the country.
And growing up, did you see yourself as becoming a teacher first? How did that develop in your life, the trajectory of your career?
So that's a real interesting one. I never pursued teaching as a formal career. In fact, I went and I got a bachelor's degree from Florida International University in public administration.
Wow.
Started to work as a field auditor for American Express.
Uh-huh.
However, serving students was always in the back of my mind.
Did you ever, growing up, have experience? Like, did you ever work at a day camp or any of that after school programs that students would, we use students, right?
So that's really interesting. That's a great question. So when I was in church, I taught Saturday
Ah,
religious school.
uh-huh.
So that was probably, I hadn't thought about that, but you just made me think about that. Yeah, so I did that for about 3 or 4 years,
Uh-huh.
but eventually became interested in teaching. And so I went to Barry University,
Uh-huh.
actually received or pursued a master's degree in reading, and that allowed me to go into teaching.
Uh-huh.
I left American Express, the business world,
Hmm.
and I am typically what you consider now a career changer.
A career changer. So many people are like that.
Yes, they are.
I don't know what the statistics are, but there's a high degree of people that study one thing and do something else. But I just think that education just gives you so much aplomb, regardless of what you get. I know that, now there's a discussion about whether it's college educations are worth it, but I just think it just gives you so many other avenues, ways of thinking. I big on education, as you know, as are you. So, how did you come to become our superintendent? Tell us about all of those little and big steps that you took that ultimately brought you where you are today, which is the CEO of the fourth largest school district in the United States, or third by some accounts, that has a budget of $7 billion. How did that happen? To this little young man who started at school here and graduated from Miami High.
Well, it can happen. That's the beauty of, or the power of education, the power of being in a community and growing and learning it, right? So I've always been about service, always been about service of others and helping others and trying to improve the lives of individuals, right? So I started as a teacher. And as a teacher, you're basically centered in serving your students and doing whatever it takes to get them to meet expectations, because children have incredible potential. Sometimes you don't see it immediately, but you can never forget the incredible potential that they have. All students from all zip codes and even students that may have disabilities, the
Yes.
potential is always there. Then I grew into an administrative role, assistant principal and principal. And there, Dr. Perez,
And what caused you? Did someone come to you and say, Jose, you seem to have leadership skills. You should put in for an assistant principalship or something like that? How did that happen?
that was interesting. So I was a very happy teacher in my classroom, and it was my principal, Robert Kalinsky, back then at Frederick Douglass
I remember
Elementary.
Robert Kalinsky, yes.
At Frederick Douglass Elementary, that he told me, you need to consider administration. Didn't do it immediately, but eventually I pursued it. And so I started then as an assistant principal and then as a principal. And what you realize as a principal is that you're there predominantly to serve the entire family, the entire community. However, the focus is your teachers. You have to service your teachers. You have to make sure that you're supporting teachers so that they get to provide the best learning experience for students.
That's so wise, because we know that the research says that once a child is in a school, the most important person in that child's life, the most important person that will affect excellence in that child's education is the teacher.
Absolutely.
We have to nurture, and they are delicate beings. Yes.
So when you have teachers that have the tools that they need to properly support and instruct students, they do a fabulous job.
Yes.
So that was my focus as a principal. Then I become very fortunate. So listen, in every position that I've had, I consider myself the fortunate one, because I have been the one being able to support, serve, and assist. I've always been the giver. So then I become a regional superintendent over approximately 100 schools, serving about 13 municipalities. And in that role, again, you're serving the community, but in that role, your focus is school leadership. It's your principals. Are your principals properly trained?
Mhm.
Are they being developed? And are we giving them the tools and resources to make their schools successful, have high expectations, and make sure that teachers, again, are providing the best environment for their
Did you
students?
ever have to fire a principal in your position?
Let me not say the word
Fire.
fire. Let me though say the word change, encourage, and exit principles that
We're
may have
not.
not been doing
We're
the
not.
best for the school or might have not
Not
been
been
the
well
perfect
matched.
fit. Absolutely. So the word fire, we've I've had to make very tough
Yes.
situations, and sometimes you have to help individuals understand that there are certain roles that they may not be equipped for.
Mhm.
And so we had several instances of that. When I was a region superintendent, we were in the school district, the first region to eliminate all F schools.
Wow, that's
That was in the
that's
north,
very good. That's
and
excellent.
I just have to say that because it was a lot of work,
Uh-huh.
a lot of dedication to the work, a lot of great principals and teachers working
Mhm.
together. But we did that. We
Yeah,
did that, and
congratulations.
thank you.
That's absolutely fabulous. And we know that you work. I mean, your experiences are immense, and you not only worked in Miami-Dade, but
Mhm.
you've been able to see how other districts have worked, etc. This is a very tough time for education,
It
Dr.
is.
Dotres.
It is.
What is your vision for the school, our school district? Your personal vision. I know that the board gives you the vision, and we have a vision statement and a mission. But when you go home, what is it that you say? This is what I want to accomplish. Tell us.
So, as a superintendent, these are very different times, right?
Very difficult.
We were used to moving in the right direction. There was a lot of consistency with instruction, a lot of consistency with what we were doing, and all of a sudden, the disruption as a result of the pandemic. I believe any superintendent like me right now has to be focused on the recovery of learning, recovering unfinished learning of students, right?
Mhm.
And never before have we had to equate academic achievement with the mental health of students. So that is what I am focused on, making sure that our students are achieving, that we have to accelerate learning in order for students to catch up with what they.
How can we accelerate when we already had students who were behind? How have we seen any proven ways of not only bringing those students that are the lowest achieving, bringing them back up and then move them forward? Are there any proven ways of doing that you know of?
So it's interesting, right? Every time I visit a school, I visited a school today, and I take 5 or 10 minutes to speak to the principal, and I ask this question: are you comfortable with the progress that you're seeing in your students? Are we really catching up? And I can tell you that some principals, the majority, are telling me they're encouraged by what they see, but there's a lot of work still to be done. So the fact of principals are now and teachers even trying to encourage the behavior that you and I were used to
Mhm.
being in school
I know.
for whatever reason because of the
Attendance.
pandemic attendance.
Attendance.
So that has been something that we are focusing on.
Well, is that like as I say, I don't know if it's such a new phenomena that there's not sufficient research. I like to base everything on research, but of course there must be. It's logical. If you're not in school, you're not learning.
Exactly.
So I mean, you don't need research to tell you that you have to have the child there
That's right.
in order for them to learn. But once the child is there, what can we do? The child is with us X amount of hours. That's all the time we have with them to accelerate and then bring them up to speed. How do we do that, Doctor?
Excellent. Excellent. So through the additional funding that we have through ESSER, right? ARP funding that we've been able to obtain from the federal government, the majority of those dollars are being invested in precisely what you're saying, extending school, right? Extending the hours of schools with tutoring or interventions after school, before school, and even additional supports during the day so that we're able to support students in where their gaps are.
So how do we not exhaust these kids? These kids are not motivated already. They're not crazy about school. They weren't doing well, so they don't even feel good about themselves in school. And now we're saying we're going to keep you longer. We're going to have you stay in school longer because we need to give you even more of this How are we handling that?
So we have to be optimistic. We have to be positive. We provide incentives for students to make sure that they participate in the tutorial programs. We communicate with parents, and it's a whole child approach, right? At the same time, we're providing one thing that through the board, you folks have been very supportive, is adding additional layers of mental health specialists and student support services um, staff as well. So it's reaching out to the parents, it's encouraging the students, because at the end of the day, everyone is about making students successful. And I have to tell you, with a pandemic, the greatest loss that we saw was mathematics.
Yes.
And now, the last round that we did, I met with 81 principals. It's interesting that the mathematics um, trajectory is looking positive. We are progressing
Good.
in math. However, on the reading end, which we didn't lose a lot of ground, not as much, we still have a lot of work to do on the reading side.
Yes.
So there are positive indicators of children doing better
In some
areas, but we are not at the stage that we were before. And there's a lot of work still to be done. We are looking forward to a very engaged summer school program, larger than ever. And
Tell us about summer school. So everybody, please listen up. Take notes. Summer
Absolutely.
School.
So
what
we
are
have,
we doing?
So we have summer school
By the way,
305.
when does it start?
I have to
Okay,
I have to get you the date because we're finalizing the dates.
All right.
So it's called Summer 305,
305.
and we are extending it. We're going to have more schools than ever, right? And it'll be a summer school that typically goes beyond just for students that may be retained or need credit recovery. We are encouraging parents,
Everyone,
to really look at summer school.
will we be able to have all our students be in summer school?
The great majority.
Okay.
It's not only for recovery and students that in elementary may be at risk of retention, but we're adding a lot of additional programming in STEM. We're adding opportunities for internships.
Ooh.
So it's a summer school that encompasses much more than what we used to do before.
And that is something that we're able to offer this one, I guess, this year and hopefully in the future. But this one year, there's monies because of the monies that we have received due to the pandemic, right?
Absolutely, Dr. Perez. So we did it last summer. I
Uh-huh.
was not here, but it was an expanded summer school.
Mhm.
And now this year we're doing it again. And there should be sufficient funding to do it the following year as well. So imagine that we have like 2 or 3 years
Mhm.
of really trying to recover a lot of the unfinished learning that students have experienced.
Yes, and that is so important. I know too, something that is very effective, not during summer school, but during this regular school year. Some principals are very creative, our principals are wonderful, the majority, is to try and get their teachers to be the after school teachers and keep their own students, because they know their students, they know the homework, they know what work, they know that they understand that child. So if the same grade teacher stays with that student after school, that tutorship is better generally than having another person come in that doesn't know this child, doesn't know the work that the teacher really is requiring. So that's a very good program. I know too that after school, we try to give them a little bit of the academic, but also make it a lot of fun. Some of our schools have, Spanish dance and all kinds of
Salsa
other,
club.
all that to be fun,
Absolutely.
so that these students have a little fun, but also get into the academics. So I know that you're dancing as fast as you can. Speaking about salsa, trying to do, and everyone at the school district trying to do the best we can to have these students recover. So I guess what are your challenges currently? You are, you're the head with a crown. Uh, what are some of the challenges that keep you up at night, Dr. Dotres?
So I'll tell you, one of the challenges is absolutely, are we accelerating learning sufficiently? That's number one. Number two is the worry about the teaching profession, our ability to recruit talent into the school district. And you said something at the beginning of the show that you were right on mark, right? We have a certain percentage of teachers that we're hiring that are very talented, but are not necessarily, they did not follow the teaching program. So we have like, we tend to hire almost 55 to 58% of, like me, career changers. So what worries me and what I think about a lot is, how do we position ourselves as an employer where folks that are talented and not necessarily in teacher preparation programs, because we know some of these programs are not graduating as many teachers as before, is how do we attract them? How do we become an employer of choice so that we bring in the best talent possible?
What kinds of teachers are the hardest to find these days?
So it's interesting that within the last 5 years, the same three areas have not changed. The very first challenging area of teachers is teachers with special education backgrounds. That's number one.
Special ed. Oh,
Special ed
really?
has been probably there for the last 3 or 4 years
Uh-huh.
and continues to be. Then we have mathematics
Of course.
and the higher level sciences.
Is the mathematics across the board, or is it the higher level math that you're having troubles
Thank you for going deeper. At the secondary level.
at the
So
second?
we're dealing with middle school to high school in particular. And then, of course, we have, which was something that has developed recently. This has not been, so mathematics and special education have been hard areas to, we've had vacancies in those areas, right? But an area that's emerging right now, and it's happened between the last 2 years. Why do I know this? Because I was in HR. It's the area of language arts at the secondary level.
Oh my goodness.
At the secondary
Oh
level.
my goodness. I that's an issue that I fully am very worried about, because I realize that people don't know how to write anymore. And it's because we're not successfully teaching them to write. In the old days, language arts. But now the concentration is so much on reading, getting children to read, that then we forget about the writing part, the language arts, and what how do you write a sentence? Is this a complete sentence? What's the difference between nouns and pronouns and all of that? And I see more and more that it's more difficult to find people who are great writers. And I think it is in part because we are concentrating on the reading part of language arts. I don't know if you find that to be so as well.
Well, the good thing is, I think the state and I think instructionally, we are marrying more and more reading and writing. We used to teach it very separately.
Yes.
Now the approach is to merge it, is to incorporate it, is to couple it so that students are reading and writing. And so the responses to reading are through writing. So we're doing a lot of professional development of teachers in the area of writing. I'm not going to say that we're doing it because students are assessed. They are. However, there's been for several years now an emphasis on the importance of writing connected to reading. I have a ninth grader at home.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes.
And I'm
The
dealing,
most famous ninth grader in Miami-Dade.
well, and so I have to work with him at home
Mhm,
with the writing side, right?
mhm.
Reading, responding to writing, and so this is becoming really important. I think we're doing a phenomenal job in developing and putting programs out to develop and support teachers in this area, but it's critically
and
important.
and I wish every father was like you, Dr. Dotres. That's what we're working on. That we're working to make Miami-Dade the known nationally because of fatherhoods and good fathers,
Absolutely.
and you're going to be the example. You're the poster child of that, and thank you so much for being such a great example to the to for in our for other men. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Dr. Perez.
So, speaking of other men, who is your hero?
Who was my hero? I can tell you my hero was my dad.
Uh-huh.
Has
I
to be
love
my
my
dad.
father because.
I love my father because of his work ethic.
Okay.
I saw a family man in my house that did everything, supported my mother in cooking, washing, doing laundry, was a family man, never missed a day of work, I think, always punctual. So I think that sense of work ethic that I saw in him,
Mhm.
I think it triggered in me. So I saw always an honest man, a man with a lot of integrity, and I think he's my hero. I think truly he's my
Very,
hero.
very good. And Dr. Dotres, with all the things that you have going on, which people cannot imagine, all the things that come to your desk, and here you are, solve it kind of thing, right? And you are the ultimate authority. How then do you relax?
I relax when I go home and I have time with my son and my wife.
Ah.
Whatever they want to do, I want to do.
Uh-huh.
Since I'm on such a an agenda
Uh-huh.
of doing activities when I go home during the weekends in particular, because during the week there's no time. But when I have a possible Saturday or Sunday opportunity,
Uh-huh.
whatever they're doing, I want to be engaged and I don't care what it is.
Ah, that's very nice.
So that's my way of relaxing.
We're almost out of time. So, what is your favorite meal?
My favorite meal,
Yes.
it's Italian, in particular pizza.
And I won't ask you who's makes the best pizza in the world. The best answer would be your wife, of course. But but I don't know if that's so.
My
Anyway.
wife has an Italian background, by the way.
Oh, she is.
She is. Yes, she
Oh,
is.
oh, okay.
She has an Italian background,
And
and
so
no, she doesn't. She doesn't do the pizza. She
she
doesn't bake the pizza.
she does
We get pizza locally from
locally.
town.
Yes, and all different kinds of pizzas, so that everyone is
Yes.
happy with the superintendent.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure. We're so fortunate to have you.
Thank you, Dr. Perez.
We sympathize with you. I sympathize with you because I know how difficult being the superintendent is currently. There's so many challenges for you, and we continue to move forward because our children,
Must.
they are growing. They're not going to wait until we settle and get it right
That's
and
right.
get all the monies that we need, and
That's right.
we have to move forward. And I know that that is what you do. And congratulations on all your hard work and all your achievements. I think people have a very good feeling about you and your superintendency. And we wish our continued success because your success is our community success. So thank you
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you, Dr. Perez. It's been an honor to be here with you.
Thank you. And thank you all for listening in and watching us on Excellence in Education.